from hospital visits to Dashcon, today I'm bringing you 10 terrifying tales of cosplay, all brought to you by the spacecraft. Enjoy. This first story comes from Anonymous and is titled, Hotel Refused to Let Us Check In Because We Were in Cosplay. So last year, me and a group of 5 other people were planning on going to a convention. The connecting hotel was sold out, so we had to settle for a more expensive one. With all of us being broke college students, we decided that we would check in on Friday and check out on Sunday to save money. Friday of the con comes, we all agree to get up at 6 a.m. and head out by 7. We all got to the convention center at like 10 a.m. Funniest thing about this, we all agreed to drive down and cosplay. Picture me cosplaying as Vincent Valentine, being the passenger princess in... This is a Bleach character. I don't know how to say their name. Don't know anything about Bleach, okay? Nalil from Bleach's car. Anyway, the con is fun, and we're having a great time. But then it gets time to check in, and we want to change out of our cosplay. So we walk back to the hotel. My friend, who we'll call Kay, is the one who booked the room. So they're the one that walks up to reception. I'm looking at my phone. I vividly remember watching anime fan camps on TikTok, and I look back at my surroundings when I hear a very loud, "What?" Apparently, the hotel staff was trying to check them in and said that they could not check them in because they could not recognize them from their ID. The staff said, more or less, "You're unrecognizable. I can't check you in because you do not look like the picture in your ID." They have a back and forth, and the worker is so visibly frustrated that he literally threatens to have my friend escorted out by security because they can't stay calm. Literally, the most my friend was doing was like arguing. They were deliberately trying to not raise their voice after the initial "What?" It's also important to note that my friend doesn't have a mask on or anything, and also isn't wearing the helmet that the character usually wears. The staff then says that Kay has to remove all of their makeup and their wig. I can understand being like, hey, take off your wig. But I mean, nobody ever told me when I had pink hair that I needed to go cut bangs into my hair and undye my hair pink because it wasn't the same in my ID photo. Kay basically says, fuck no, and then asks for a manager. Uh-oh. Staff doesn't want to get the manager, but eventually relents, and the manager comes out. The manager is much nicer and does actually check them in, apologizes for the inconvenience, and even gave us free breakfast for the rest of the weekend. Besides the slight stress, we changed out of our cosplays and went back to having fun. And the hotel ended up being very nice besides that slight mishap. Let me tell you, okay, the most done with life that I have ever been checking into a hotel was when I got to the hotel for Narcon Samar in Sweden, because that was, you know, an overnight flight to get to Amsterdam, another flight to get to Sweden, and then like a several-hour drive to get down to Linköping. And so by the time I walked up to that counter with my giant hard-shell suitcase and my giant hard-shell golf bag with my pigtails and fork in it, I was like, I want to sleep. Who am I? I don't know. Obviously, I'm not in a cosplay, but if somebody had been like, you don't look like your ID, you can't check in, I would have just cried. This story comes from V or V's Beans, and the trigger warning is kinda gross. I had not read these before filming because I think that makes for funnier reactions, but it turns out kind of gross is a massive understatement, so this is your severe content warning for graphic finger content. I wanted to make a cosplay for a KaiCon last year, and boy oh boy, did I take my sweet time deciding to actually get my ass up and do it. It's the week of the con, and I have just returned from a wedding in Spain, so I was super jet-lagged, but there was really no time to procrastinate further. So I locked in and started making the cosplay. The cosplay was complicated, and I patterned the entire thing, including a cowl, similar to a Twi'lek from Star Wars, which was really weird and hard to make. The cosplay was going well, and I was super happy with how it was coming out. And while I have my own machine, my grandma has a super nice Bernina. Check the link in the description. We've got Burnett machines. Affiliate links. Same company. The Burnett line is just a line of Berninas. Berninas are good. The grandmas approve of Berninas. And it's just better than mine. Plus, she likes to see the stuff I'm doing, so I went to her house to use it. Oh, we even get the name of the machine. It's a 770 Quilters edition, and it's very, very strong. I asked everyone this year to give me a title for their stories, and this one is Con Crunch Put Me in the Hospital. Oh no! And I think I know where this is going, and I don't think Bernina's gonna like it. Anyway, very, very strong sewing machine, which is good for going through lots of layers. So there I was, sewing together the pieces of my cowl, and I am beat. I don't know what happened, but it was almost like I took a nap for a fraction of a second, and BAM! The needle is in my finger. And there's blood everywhere. They're apparently anemic, so they described it as a murder scene. Oh, the fabric was completely ruined, and I didn't have any more of it. My grandma came in and freaked out, as you can imagine, and got pliers to try and get... The needle was stuck. This one is gross. Oh, I don't even know how much of this I can actually say. Graphic, okay, actually, I'm just gonna read it. Warning, graphic finger content. The problem was, this was the middle of my finger, not on the side, through the center of my nail, and the pliers could not get the needle out. So we went to the hospital. They took me back and eventually got a big piece of it out. Oh my God. And then said they wanted to do an x-ray to make sure it was all out. Lo and behold, there was a piece of needle lodged in between my bones. So not only is this needle still in my finger, but it broke off the top of my, big words, distal phalange. Graphic! The doctor had to remove my nail. Okay, context. The horror stories are usually sent via the Discord. This kind of thing is not usually allowed in spacecraft conversation. This year I gave people a Google form, so the gloves are off. Okay, Jesus Christ. The doctor had to remove my nail, which was already broken down the middle from the needle, so it would have fallen off anyway, but it was gross. Eventually he got it out, and it looked like my finger had been chewed off at the top. He wraps up my finger and said that where the bone broke off, it wouldn't be necessary, but if I wanted, I could get the bone fragment removed. I had been through enough that day and said, aha, no, thank you. This is the most severe sewing injury I have ever heard of. The next day, I continued to work on my cosplay, despite the setbacks. But all is well in the end, right? At AkaiCon, I won novice runner-up. I guess the moral of the story is, please, 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 do not sew when you are tired. This can happen to anyone. I've been sewing since I can remember and have full confidence in my sewing abilities, and it still happened. Please be careful, because Jesus Christ, this really sucked ass. Oh, I've never gotten my finger under the needle, thank God. I have had it where part of the, like the bar that comes off the side of the needle that you unscrew to get the needle out. I've had that smash my finger before. It smarts. It hurts, but I've never had the needle hit me. But yeah, watch your hands when you're sewing. Don't fall asleep at the wheel. Also, don't con crunch. Hold on, my energy's recharged. I need to merge some cats in today's sponsor, Lovin' Pies. Picture this. Your mom's beloved cafe has burned down under mysterious circumstances. And it's up to you to rebuild and uncover the secrets behind the fire. That not enough for you? Also, the cat is missing. We gotta help find Marshmallow by matching and merging baked goods like cookies and pies, and also cats. We gotta sell these baked goods to the customers so that they give us the finances we need to rebuild your mom's cafe. But you also get to decorate yourself, and I've been sticking mostly to the very cute blue rustic style, but I did pick the neon pink garden. But it's such an easy game to pick up. It is a very nice stress-free escape to just go to Appleton, merge some pies, hopefully eventually get Marshmallow. I'm gonna get a pie. There's a pie. There's also something so satisfying when you get a customer that wants a pie that takes so long to merge up to, and you finally get it, and it's this awesome victory. And this Halloween, Appleton is getting spooky. If you join and reach level 8, you'll get access to 2 limited time events, Phantom Pass, and Betty's Autumn Drinks. I am incredibly invested in this quest to find Marshmallow. So I'm gonna keep enjoying merging pies and cats. But if you want to solve all the mysteries of Love and Pies 2, download now using my link and reach day 3 within a week to claim a sweet treat of 200 energy and 50 gems. It's free to download, and you don't want to miss the cozy, spooky, limited time events. Reach level 8 to unlock and play. Okay, this is the one that when I saw it in the spreadsheet, I got really excited because the title is one word, Dashcon. The year is 2014. By this point, I have been attending conventions for a decade, mostly in the Chicagoland area. My friends and I find out about a first-year convention happening in the Chicago suburb of Schaumburg. I never knew the Dashcon lore that it was in Schaumburg. The main draw, the Welcome to Night Vale podcast, will be performing. At this point, you might know where this story was going. I went to Dashcon. Okay, I don't know how much Dashcon information is actually in here, but I'll give you a little overview if you've never heard of Dashcon. Dashcon was an unofficial Tumblr fan convention. This was at the height, maybe a little when Tumblr had started to wane, but Tumblr was still a huge thing back then. I think originally it was going to be called TumblrCon. This is like off the top of my noggin, my historical record in my own brain of Dashcon. There are way more detailed videos about Dashcon that you should absolutely watch if you've never heard of it. But it was unofficial, fan run, and was a disaster. The stories heard online were true. Friday night, after getting my badge for the weekend, we were pulled into the bathroom and told that the convention needed $17,000 lest they would be kicked out of the hotel. We rallied. The con was saved, or so I thought. This is a real thing. For some reason, Dashcon did not have enough money to pay the hotel the money that they owed them to even host the convention. And so Friday night, they got the entire con into a ballroom, and the entire con raised the amount of money that they needed to stay in the hotel. Or so they thought. My friends and I arrived the next day in full Night Vale cosplay. I have very fond memories of playing Minecraft and listening to Welcome to Night Vale in college. But Welcome to Night Vale was a spooky, creepy podcast that was popular around that time. Very popular on Tumblr. Because of the shipping. The furry pants on the first date. Anyway, they're ready for their Night Vale show, okay? We line up, we got in our seats and waited and waited and waited. Finally, we got the dreaded announcement. Welcome to Night Vale had walked. The convention did not pay them, and they rightly refused to perform. One member of our group, wisely, booked it to registration and somehow got her money back. The rest of us just dejectedly visited the dealer's hall, skipping our extra hour of the ball pit. And by the time we made an attempt to get a refund, it was too late. I'm surprised people actually did get refunds. I didn't know that. Trying to make the most of the rest of our Saturday, we headed to a local movie theater to catch a showing of How to Train Your Dragon 2. Upon arriving at the theater, we found the one showing of the day was canceled. Oh, I like the Dashcon curse just applied to all of, Schlomberg. On top of this, all of this was done for my friend, now wife's, birthday. It was the worst convention I have ever been to, but now it's a great story to tell. It's a legendary story to tell! You went to Dashcon! Oh, if I had a time machine, what I would give to go get in that disgusting ball pit. That story was by Twisted Dogge, by the way. Twisted Dogge, you're a legend. This next story comes from another anonymous and is called Sleeping at a Con, then waking up and missing things, then walking for an hour home and being catcalled by strangers. During my first visit to a local con, Anime Los Angeles, loved Anime Los Angeles, I paid for a 4-day pass since it was the early bird rate and I could afford it. Then with the help of some friends and a sibling, I put together a simple cosplay of Power from Chainsaw Man. All was going well, and I was having fun until the 3rd day, when I found out I would be completely alone for the day at the con. Oh, it's not the worst thing to walk around a con alone. And Anime Los Angeles is a good size for walking around a con alone. I would not ever walk around Dragon Con alone, period. Don't go to Dragon Con alone. Especially don't go to Dragon Con alone at night. Don't do that. But mid-sized cons. Big, no. Big no. No. Anyway, they're gonna be alone at the con. Keeping in mind I could not drive at this time and lived quite a far walk from the convention center, I should have seen how bad this would go for me from that morning. But I pushed on. I put my cosplay on, somebody drove me to the con, where I walked around for a while, saw cool cosplays and vendors, and had fun. After an hour, loneliness and how tired I was from being in public really hit me. Oh, I know that feeling. Oh, I started feeling sick and dizzy, likely from how tight my wig was. So I sat down on the floor next to the wall in the vendor's room, resting my eyes for what I believed would just be a second to energize and to get back to enjoying the con. But fate had other plans. I awakened from my slumber, confused and disoriented, and when I came to my senses, I noticed that most of the ribbons I had put on my badge were gone. Somebody stole your badge ribbons, but not your badge. My phone and wallet were intact, thankfully. But it was scary to think someone approached me while I slept and messed with my things. Scared and tired, I decided to walk from the con to one of my friends' houses, just a short hour and a half of walking through places I had never been to in a wig and makeup in Los Angeles. Now this says Anime LA, which I'm assuming is Anime Los Angeles, ALA, which is in Long Beach. We did quite a long walk when we went to go to a place that sells legal goods that are not specifically legal where I live, but are legal in California. But we went on a long walk when we were there to go to a place like that. It was quite a walk. I have a story about that walk on my Patreon if you're interested in it and what it smelled like. Oh, in a wig and makeup. And they were not an adult yet. They're an adult now, it says at the time. Surprisingly, most of the walk went by with very little trouble. As I got further from the con, the amount of people staring increased, of course, but that was to be expected. What really turns this part into a scary one is when I was only about 10 minutes from my friend's house, two strangers in a car stopped on the road, rolled down their windows, and tried to talk to me. Hey, you! Oh God. Oh my God. Somebody in LA did? Okay, it says, hey, you a transgender? I immediately took off my wig and exclaimed, no, it's just a costume. Fearful for my well-being, yeah. I speed walked the rest of the way and finally arrived at my friend's house, where I slept on the couch for several hours. I don't know what those men wanted, but I sure didn't want to find out. Weird to think someone would do that in LA. I don't know, I've only been to LA once, but you would think there wouldn't be men driving around asking random people in wigs if they're trans or not. Does anyone have any idea why that would happen? I have an idea of what they wanted. Yeah, be safe. If you're gonna be in cosplay and stray from the con center, maybe don't go alone. Going to a con alone can be fun if you're an adult. Don't go to a con by yourself if you're not an adult, just period. Bring your mom. As last year's animated horror stories moral ultimately was the coolest thing you can do at an anime convention is bring your mom. I got tired of trying to make sure that hat wasn't making too much noise for the mic. Hope you enjoyed the ASMR rattan hat sounds. Anyway, this next story comes from Plush Puppy and is called Kidnapped as Frog Girl. This was back in July of 2017 when I was just 16 years old, experiencing my first ever convention. It was Tampa Bay Comic-Con. I was so excited to be dressed up as Froppy from My Hero Academia. I had never cosplayed in public before, so I was a bit nervous to begin with, but I was with my boyfriend, who is now my fiance, and he was just in regular clothing. We had gone to the convention center and spent quite a bit of time in the artist alley. As I was walking with my fiance, I heard a loud group of people behind us screaming, "Grab Froppy." Then this group of adults in My Hero cosplays scooped me up off my feet and carried me down the hall, which left my fiance absolutely puzzled. They put me down and patted my head, laughing as I sat there absolutely terrified, and ran back to the fiance and hugged him tightly. I fear I should have reacted differently and maybe even told someone, but I was just a baby and didn't know any better. P.S. I never went back to Tampa Bay Comic-Con. Oh, I have so much to say about this. First of all, not your fault. You were a baby. You didn't know any better. If anyone at a con ever touches you, period, tell the staff. If this had happened to me, I don't know what I would have done at 16, but this past year, and this wasn't even like a serious situation. It might have been at ALA, it might have been at Hallmat, I can't actually remember, but someone came up from behind me, and instead of saying like, hey, they did one of these. They did one of these from behind, so I just feel a boop boop on my shoulder, and the chill that went down my spine that someone had just touched me. And it had to have been at ALA, because I think if that had happened at Hallmat, I wouldn't have been as afraid, because I know tons of people that go to Hallmat, but I didn't really know. I knew maybe a few people at Anime Los Angeles, but like at Hallmat, I would have expected it to be a friend. In my head, I'm like, who the fuck is touching me? And I turn around, and it's like a young teenage girl, like maybe 13, 14 years old. And she just wanted a picture. And so it was not a threatening situation at all. And I understood that, this is a child. They probably don't know any better. But in that split second before I turned around and saw that, they were down here, I was terrified, because who is touching me? Don't touch people. If somebody fully picked me up, the screaming that would occur, the full volume of a trumpet player would be released into that con, I can tell you what. But yeah, stuff like this is also the reason why I get really concerned when people talk about a really important part of being a good cosplayer is being the character. And obviously in a cosplay performance, absolutely. If you're doing something on the stage, absolutely be that character. If you're walking around the con, no, you need to act like a regular person, because you have to remember that everyone around is a regular person and is a stranger, and you cannot just pick up a child and run away with them because she's fropey and you think it's funny. And this kind of behavior, for 2017, that's even crazy that happened. It used to be really prevalent at cons. There used to be this whole glomping culture where you just run up and randomly, aggressively hug people. And we've kind of grown past that. But I still hear people talk about like, oh, such a big part of cosplay is being the character. And I hate hearing it, because it reminds me of things like this. It reminds me of the Deadpool people that run around as Deadpool and do dumb stuff. Like, that was funny in 2012. It's not funny anymore. Be the character on stage. Be a normal, respectful person at the con. Y'all would never. The spacecraft would never. But yeah, if somebody ever touches you, go to the staff. The staff doesn't want people like that there. All right, next story from Anonymous, and it's titled Cosplay Literally Disintegrated Mid-Con. I'm not an experienced sewer, so I always buy my cosplays online. Sometimes this works out, sometimes it doesn't. This is one of those times it really didn't. I was cosplaying as Roxas from Kingdom Hearts. I have his regular outfit, but I also ordered his Organization 13 uniform, which is a hooded black cloak. The one I bought had a shiny black vinyl texture, like faux leather. It wasn't the highest quality, but it worked. I had ordered his cloak at some point, but it sat in my closet unworn for years. I don't know if the age of the cloak caused this, but I feel like it contributed. But I finally wore it for the first time to a summer con. As we were walking through the artist alley in the afternoon, I noticed black dust on the floors and tables where I was standing. At first, I didn't think anything of it, but I kept noticing it. I had no idea what it could be or why it was following me. When I turned to grab my bag and pay for something, I finally realized what it was. The black vinyl texture on the cloak was actively flaking off of the base material under my arms and on the sides. I guess the motion of my arms rubbing against my side caused it to crack and just come off. Unfortunately for me, the material underneath wasn't black, it was light beige. So this was extremely obvious every time I lifted my arms. We hurried to the cosplay repair station and appealed to the cosplay gods and professionals for their expertise. They had no idea how to help me though. They gave me a little bit of black acrylic paint and I did my best. But the black vinyl stuff just kept flaking and the area kept getting bigger. In the end, I had to take the whole cloak off and continue the con without it. My partner was wearing a jacket that kind of matched, so they gave it to me to wear and we threw my disintegrating cloak into the car. When I got home that night, I stuffed it into a trash bag and threw it out. Ugh. Okay, so vinyl, off the top of my noggin, no research. I believe vinyl is usually, there's a backing fabric and then there's kind of like a plastic vinyl coating on top of it. Faux leathers, from what I understand, will all eventually peel up. So it's a thing you do need to think about when you use it to make stuff, is especially in those high traffic areas like under the arms, whereas real leather will actually last a lot longer. I'm putting the other hat on, and I better get a bunch of comments that are like, I really like the sound of the rattan hat. It's definitely ASMR and definitely not a really annoying audio thing to have in your video, Sarah. This story comes from Anonymous. At my con's local craftsmanship cosplay contest, everything was seemingly going fine. I wasn't competing this year, but I had a bunch of friends in the contest, so I was happily watching in the audience. The stage walk portion went mostly well, but that's not what the story's about. Everyone who was supposed to walk the stage walked the stage. The judges went to a side room for a final deliberation, and they had a dance group performing in cosplay as the halftime show. And there was a local Star Wars group that put on a really cool lightsaber fight that had like 10 people in it. I'm not into Star Wars, but even I can admit it was really cool. I like them. We're here for the Star Wars shade. Did anyone else watch the new Mr. Plinkett and just go, oh my god, Mr. Plinkett in 2025? It was really cool. However, during one of the dances, the fire alarms went off. The music for this dance was incredibly loud, and it had some really dramatic movements, including incredibly intense smoke machines. So nobody noticed at first. But after about a minute or so, some people are actually starting to notice the fire alarm. There are people in the crowd standing and looking around confused, but not a lot of people are clearing out. The dance on the stage? Still going on. They hadn't stopped dancing yet. Finally, someone announces that it's a real fire alarm and that we need to clear out. But all the cosplayers and competitors, some of them in ginormous armor with limited mobility, had to walk all the way to the parking lot behind the building. So there we are, standing in a parking lot. Nobody knows who won the cosplay contest yet, and staff is urging us further and further into the parking lot. Thankfully, it had just stopped raining. It had been pouring all morning, so at least nobody's costumes got ruined. We stood outside waiting in the parking lot for the results for like half an hour as the fire department came and checked on the convention center. The cosplayers took a big selfie, and it was cute, so it was at least kind of fun. Finally, we got the all clear to get let back into the convention center, hopefully to finally get those results, of which were some hella cash prizes, so people really wanted answers. And the dancers were not done, so we had to sit through like another 15 to 20 minutes of 15 to 20 minutes of dances before they finally brought the judges back to give the results. Okay, hold on. So, I talked about this in my last video. When judges have to deliberate, cons will do a halftime show. I love a halftime show because it keeps people in the audience actually in the seats so that they actually come see the prizes. It's like obviously less fun to win your award to like 20 people left in the audience, right? But halftime shows are just supposed to be enough time for the judges to deliberate. And I get that, you know, these dancers got interrupted and they probably wanted to keep going, but at that point it's like, just announce the results. The judges have had plenty of time to deliberate. Anyway, longest halftime show ever. It was never actually announced why the fire alarms went off. Some people thought it was just the smoke machines, but some people thought the convention kitchen had a small fire. But those weren't the leading theories. The main theory for what caused the fire was someone in the hall over lost a game of Warhammer, rage quit, and walked out of a fire door. I don't know if that's really what happened, but that's my favorite theory. I'm gonna choose to believe that it was a Warhammer player walking out of a fire door. This story comes from the Glam Rock Gator, San Antonio, Texas's Big Texas Comic-Con. Texas. 2024 showed that Big Texas Comic-Con had some serious growing pains, along with a dire need to change how it handles its cosplay show. Friday was fine. The line's pretty short, and the lines for photos with my cosplay were longer than badge pickup. But Saturday was a different story. There was a line a mile long outside the convention center, rounding the building, because everyone had to go through the same queue to get through bag check and to get through badge pickup. Even if you already had your badge, you still had to wait in the same line because they only had one table for bag check. But a huge line outside in 105-degree weather is not my gripe with Big Texas. Big Texas is in the middle of October. There's a lot of Halloween-themed events and a lot of kids and teens in their regular Spirit Halloween costumes. Heck, My favorite photo from the weekend is a tiny kid in a Spirit Halloween costume of a FNAF character standing with my full fabricated FNAF mascot, Five Nights at Freddy's. Their full fabricated Five Nights at Freddy's mascot, so I had my own mini me. It was adorable. But the fun ended with the Saturday night cosplay contest. A thing of true nightmares. Shout out, if you were to look at Sarah's video describing what not to do at a cosplay contest, 2024 Big Texas Comic-Con was the poster child for everything. I don't have a what not to do at a cosplay contest video. I just have videos where I on bad ones and ones about good. I have those good ones. I have more of them about good ones than bad ones. And there's one that's about one that was a good one and then it became a bad one. And one of the bad ones, because I yelled at it, is now a good one. Okay. Big Texas was the poster child of everything one should not do. There was no prejudging. Ooh. I asked one of the judges after the show was done, and they felt quite embarrassed after being on stage, so they scurried away after I briefly got to talk to them because a number of Spirit Halloween costumes made it onto stage. Were there any rules for it? Like, was it a craftsmanship contest? Was it just, like, what was this? Both in more than just one category. Youth, teen, adult. It's not based on skill or awards. No vetting whatsoever for the contestants. Some of the contestants did make spectacular costumes, such as the winner of Best in Show. I think a judge's award was even given to a Spirit Halloween contestant. But then we find out that this gentleman got his costume from Spirit Halloween last minute before competing in the cosplay show contest. The audience found out at the same time as me and the judges. The MC randomly asked the contestant about making it, and the kid answers that he bought it at Spirit. The MC was Hades. I thought it said that the MC was cosplaying Hades. No, they're saying the MC was Hades himself. He's Satan. Also, I have to cut in before I get into how bad the MC was. Not all cosplay contests are craftsmanship contests. Some contests just get up on the stage and do a thing on the stage, and we'll judge you on your cosplay, how it looks, but we don't really care about the craftsmanship of it. Those exist, and those should exist. Those are valid. It sounds like this was that. With no prejudging, I'd have to assume so, that it's just more of a catwalk contest. Those are fine. MC's not valid or fine. So, bad MC. He didn't know any character names. He didn't know how to pronounce anything other than an English name. Not being familiar with the community at all, and not being familiar with craftsmanship or performance. And not respecting the cosplayers who come on the stage. Namely, by asking random ones that he liked, random questions. I hate the random questions. You have to tell people you're going to ask them questions before they go on stage. You can't just surprise people on stage. Cosplay contests are not beauty pageants. There is no interview portion. And if there is one, I think you could do that, but I think you would need to make it clear in the beginning that you're going to talk on stage so that people can know that they don't want to enter it. Because all of the cosplayers I know, it's hard to convince people to even do skits. And you're not allowed to use the mic in a skit most of the time. Anyway. And he's just picking ones he likes. He's like, I know what Spider-Man is. I'm gonna talk to Spider-Man. He's asking them also as they're trying to walk off stage. Occasionally grabbing them and pulling them back on stage as they're exiting just to ask them a question that they were not prepared to or expecting to be asked. But this went from PG-13 horror movie to true deep things of darkness that will haunt you in your dreams. When the MC spontaneously asked and pulled aside a cosplayer as they were trying to exit is especially anguished because she's clearly deaf and cannot understand what the MC is saying. I, sitting in the front row of this horror show, literally and metaphorically, gasped and covered my mouth in horror as this poor young lady does her best and simply says her name on stage. I have never witnessed anything more awkward in the history of theater or stage. To continue the horror, the judges at the end of the walk-ons were not given opportunity to go behind the scenes and consult with each other. Instead, the MC held them and the audience hostage while they bravely consulted right there on stage on that little sofa so they could decide on awards. The awkwardness continued to grow and grow as people started to say that they had either purchased these things from something like Spirit Halloween and that these people had placed above people who'd actually worked and slaved on their cosplays. This is not to blame the judges. They had no idea because they didn't get an opportunity to speak with any of the contestants. They were simply given a sheet of paper to take notes on cosplays as they walked at the speed of light across the stage because big Texas Comic-Con did not allow nearly enough time for the show to run properly. So every single contestant is hurried to and fro, giving the judges almost no time to examine anything. I felt bad for the judges. I felt bad for the cosplayers who actually spent a lot of time and efforts on their outfits. It was truly horror. And yes, I have a video of the deaf cosplayer, but I don't know who she is in real life. Okay, the horror of this. And this is why, if you're going to talk to people on stage, they need to know in advance that you're going to do that. Because you never know what people's ability levels are. That stuff, that is horrific. However, they're throwing a lot of emphasis on these Spirit Halloween cosplays winning in contests where there are people that actually made their cosplays. And if this contest doesn't actually have rules against wearing a purchased cosplay, then that's actually totally fine. If it was supposed to be a craftsmanship contest, then yeah, not good. It's also not the judge's fault. But it sounds like this is some big Texas Wild West no rules stuff. But yeah, like if there isn't a requirement to make your cosplay, then you can win in a purchased cosplay over somebody that made their cosplay. That's perfectly fine. If purchased cosplays are allowed, that's fine. If the contest has no rules and no description of what's going to happen on stage, that's a nightmare. All right. Now we get to, as tradition, my horror story. Last year, I spent an entire month working on a fully animated 20-minute video. I took what normally is supposed to be my easy video for the year. I don't have to write anything. I just gotta sit here and read stuff. What was supposed to be my easiest video of the year, I took that and I made it a 20-minute piece of animation, the single longest piece of animation I've made in my entire life. And today, that video sits as one of the lowest viewed videos on my channel. You should go watch it. I worked really hard on it last year. For real though, I did actually try to rack my brain for a horror story. And I don't think I have one other than the young lady tapping me on the shoulder and scaring the out of me. I haven't actually had a whole lot of terrible interactions at cons in general. I had more probably in my youth, and I've told those. But I also just wanted to say, like, whenever I do the horror stories, I always get comments from people that are like, cons seem so unsafe and terrifying, and you gotta remember that these are a bunch of people's worst experiences at conventions. This is from a large group of people, and you know, some of these things are just goofy stuff like fire alarms going off, everyday things that can happen to anyone. Yes, you should be safe at cons. I think if you're not an adult yet, you should not be going to a con alone. I think you should be going with a parent or guardian. But for the most part, if you act with a reasonable degree of sense, you're gonna be perfectly safe at any convention. Anyway, I've been filming for way too long. So thank you so much for watching. If you want to support the channel directly, then you can check out my Patreon where you get some exclusive content. But if you're just watching, liking, commenting, subscribing, or sending the video to a friend or your mom, then you're supporting the channel too. So thank you. Remember to use that link in the description or the QR code on screen to download Love and Pies and claim that 200 energy and 50 gems. Thanks for watching, but the biggest thank you to my newest big support tier patrons: Francis, Concert Cosplays, Jasmine, Tabitha, Lily Lives, Aubrey, Alex, April, Joanna, Nubish, Nimbus Gray, Amporali, Olivia, Theodora, Sally Jack Pumpkin King, and Sharon B. Thanks for watching. Bye!